There's a lot of pepper here, and I came across something saying 23,000 people will die this year and never see their killer coming. So it's talking about how to survive the end of the modern healthcare as we know it. Across the United States, 23,000 people will die in the next 365 days, and they will never see their killer coming. Many of them will walk into their local hospitals expecting treatment for minor injuries like cuts, breaks, routine procedures, and things in that basic area. Now, the problem is, it's talking about superbugs getting stronger than any antibiotics we can throw at them, are spreading faster than we have the capability to fight back. Now, 2 million people will be infected in the United States this year alone. 23,000 will die. You think, well, that ain't too bad. 2 million people and only 23,000 dies. But if it's your family member, someone you love, or close friend, then you're not going to be happy about it. And similar death tolls are being reported around the world. And that is the case. Now, it's talking about 25,000 in Europe this year, with estimate 10 million deaths per year globally predicted by 2050, more than the current global death toll from cancer. So, now, the thing is, it's talking about the end of modern medicine as we know it, and it's talking about the antibiotics that was the first thing of penicillin was developed 73 years ago. What's happened is that doctors just kind of got antibiotic happy, basically, and they kept prescribing it to us, and our bodies, the bugs, the viruses and stuff begin to mutate to fight off these antibiotics. But it's not just antibiotics that was given to us. Our medical system is being driven back to the late 1800s to start, and time with simple infections killed. And health experts around the globe are beginning to panic as they being backed into corners by strains of superbugs now immune to all known antibiotics. Doctors are forced to cut out infections, amputate, and in worst case scenarios, watch their patients die slowly, agonizing death. Now, it's talking about with a few replacement products in the pipeline, the world's heading towards a post-antibiotic era in which common infection will once again kill. So what it's talking about basically here is we have created a resistance to antibiotics, and antibiotics is expensive to make, they say. They say it takes about 20 years to make an antibiotic. So once they get it made, usually the bug, the virus, or whatever becomes immune to it within 6 months. So, but that's like you're saying is the drug companies are out to make profits. So for them, it's not a profit to put money towards antibiotics. So, and of course, it's talking about all because bacteria hundreds of millions of years old evolved far too fast for medical science to keep up. They're always changing. They're always mutating. They're always developing. It's like these viruses are jumping from animals to humans. It's changing. It's changing. How do you fight back against a single bacteria that can multiply 1 million cells in as little as 7 hours? That's just something. One bacteria, one cell, can turn into 1 million cells. And they pass along the resistant trail. It's like it's built into the DNA. It's a genetic DNA situation. It's just like with birds. How do they know how to hunt? I mean, how does some of them once the animals are after a few weeks old, they leave them alone and they're gone. They have to learn how to survive and hunt for food. How do they know what to eat? How do they know how to survive? It's a basic instinct that has been developed into them and passed on. Says more fighting still, scientists are seeing bacteria pass resistant trails between completely unrelated strains that like trading cards let's talk about. And it is changing. The ongoing use of antibiotics is quite literally teaching bacteria how to thrive in the presence of new antibiotics. See, the thing is, what we don't realize also is that the meats we buy are loaded with antibiotics on a lot of it. They give the antibiotics for the cattle and the pork and all the other animals to produce more. Have you ever went and bought, you know how when you go in the store and you buy eggs and the egg shells are so thin that they just crumble without any problems, but you can go and buy some farmer eggs and the eggs are a whole lot thicker and coarser than those. Um, it's talking about now there's a list here. Some of them here now like talking about MRSA as a former staff is antibiotic resistant. Now it's known to cause pneumonia and life-threatening blood infections. It's easily picked up by patients in hospitals and care facilities. Controlling the spread is challenging. Then you got CRE. That's a resistant antibacteria. As according to the Center of Disease Controls and Prevents, kills almost 50% of the hospital patients infected. Then there's C.diff, uh, and it causes diarrhea, just debilitating diarrhea, can eat through a patient's bowels and cause blood poisoning. The C. diff spreads easily on bed rails, furniture, toilets, bedpans, weight scales, medical equipment, etc. Then there's another one called shingles. I'm probably pronouncing it shallot. It almost looks like shingles, but it's not shingles. It's Shigella. I'm mispronouncing it. That's the highest contagious bacteria brought to the U.S. By overseas travelers that resist multiple strands of antibiotics. SARS, sorry, SARS, uh, and it's easy to spread public facility like pools and extensively drug-resistant forms of high contagion there. Of course, tuberculosis is been identified in over 100 countries in all the regions of the world. And then malaria is threatened to outpack global effect to control on the outbreak. Now, these are just handfuls it's talking about. So there's a lot to think about when you've got all these different ones. And it's just saying here, if you're expecting a cavalry to come, it's not necessarily going to be coming. Uh, it's expensive, like I tell you, to develop antibodies. They say it takes roughly 20 years to develop an antibody. With all the advancements in science, why would it take 20 years now to develop it? Is it just the money that they're getting out of it? It says it takes 20 years to develop an antibody. Well, they got all this knowledge now and all this technology to do this stuff. Wouldn't you think it would take them a lot less time to do that? And then I just tell you, a lot of the drug companies just not doing antibody research. Now, there is those that are pushing these issues and trying to get them to make antibodies and look at the options and things. And they're trying to force it. But drug companies are still not going to be doing all this stuff if it does not benefit them. I mean, just, they're going to take care of the stuff. It says, avoid the unnecessary uses of antibiotics. More and more doctors are refusing to give antibiotics. I prefer to do the natural one if I can, but I did take a antibiotic a while back. I was so sick and I screwed up. I'll tell you what I did. Instead of depending on my natural herbs, I started using over-counter stuff. And I got even sicker, where if I depended more on my natural ones, I think I'd been a whole lot healthier, a whole lot better. It says avoid purchasing meat treated with antibiotics. I will tell you, every time you go out to a restaurant, and I'm just as guilty, every time we get a burger for one of these restaurants or we go out to eat, we're getting some kind of treated preservatives in it. TV dinners and things in that area. All of that is, of course, it says reports show that 18% of the conventionally raised ground beef purchased in store across the United States was tainted with bacteria resistance to 3 or more classes of antibiotics. But that's why you really need to kind of cook them. Now it's talking about, raising your own meat and things like that. Now, it says, and if you're a vegetarian, be aware that products grown in animal manure from farms where antibiotics are administered may be contaminated with antibiotic-resistant bacteria too. So that's something to think about too. If you are a vegetarian, make certain that they do not raise their vegetables, their crops, and animal manure fertilization. Something to think about on that right there. It says pay attention where your food and water is coming from. It is important really to use filter systems. I do got a friend that not only does he use filter, he also boils all his water. So and then antibiotics expelled from humans as well as farm runoff create a survival of the fittest scenario where superbugs can share resistant trails. Now, it's where the fertilizer used on your products scored. Did you know that sludge from wastewater treatment plants is being used as fertilizer for agriculture crops? Ain't that something? Sludge from the water treatment plants is being used as fertilizer. Well, if you've ever been around a sewage plant or a water treatment plant, and you go and you'll see all this here all in the back, well, that's all the byproducts, the sludge. Water from rivers downstream of wastewater treatment plants is shown to be contaminated with antibacterial resistant bacteria. So you don't want to get water below a water treatment plant. Says stay away from healthcare facility where superbugs breed. And then the thing is though, it's a lot to think on, but superbugs are going to breed anywhere, and sometimes we are forced to go and seek out medical attention. Now, I don't overload with antibiotics and stuff from the store. I just don't do that. I'm not one who want to take a lot of meds from the doctor, and I don't really like it because really I can eat a lot. I mean, a lot of it don't really work. There's things I could do better for myself. There's a lot of meds out there we really do need, but antibiotics, we have gotten so much in the habit of just running to the doctor and getting them that our bodies has built up a resistance against it. So these people who are not consuming as much antibiotics as others will probably stand a little bit better chance of a resistance being built up because your body builds up natural antibiotics in it, and you can get sicker and sicker. So people who also consumes a large amount of medications from doctors, their body breaks down, their resistance breaks down, and the immune system breaks down. So it's something to think about in a situation like that of how many people a year dies. Now that's out of 2 million they're talking about it's going to get sick. But as these superbugs are growing and developing, we're looking at more problems, more changes that we need to make in our lives on what we are going to do and how we are going to survive and how our family's going to survive. So it's a lot to think about. 23,000 a year here in the United States out of 2 million people. Now, and that's 10 million people worldwide who has become so codependent on the antibiotics and stuff. So take a look in your medicine cabinet and think about doing some research and changing some of your ways, maybe changing some of your eating habits, cutting down on going to the fast food restaurants every day and try to eat a little healthier. I'm working on getting back into my program. I got out of it, and I can tell you what, I feel better that I'm eating less of the other. So this is Live Prepper here. I want you to be safe, be happy. Bless you all.